It was a bit dicey in Week 14 for the Dallas Cowboys, but they do come out on top, earning their 10th win of the 2022 season. Now 10-3 on the campaign and still alive in the race for an NFC East crown. Welcome into Special Edition, everybody, from the Star in Frisco with three former Cowboys, Isaiah Stanback, Barry Church, Nate Newton. I'm Kyle Yeomans. Gentlemen, 27-23, the final score. The Cowboys over the Houston Texans. A one-win Texans team nearly upended the Cowboys at AT&T Stadium. But was this wake-up call at the perfect time for this Cowboys team entering the back four games of their schedule?
You know, Kyle, I like to think so, but I honestly thought that the Green Bay game was the wake-up call, and obviously that was not. That wasn't good enough. I felt like the Dallas Cowboys showed up and thought that they could just bully ball the Texans to a victory. That wasn't the case either. Lovie Smith came out with one heck of a game plan offensively and defensively to slow things down for Dallas. Other teams are going to be watching this template. They're going to be looking at this game plan. They're going to try their best to try to initiate it going down the stretch.
Yeah, Kyle, I think this happened at the perfect time. What was it, Week 14 when this thing happened? You still got the W, and I'd rather this happen in Week 14 than in the wild card. You get a wake-up call, and you're going home the next week. So to me, it happened at the perfect time.
You know, the question is, who are the Dallas Cowboys? We don't know. Like you said, is it the Green Bay team? Is it the Minnesota team? But this team needs to stop shooting itself in the foot. Turnovers one week, penalties the next week. You have to start getting consistent. You have to start building towards these playoffs.
You talked about some of those mistakes. Dak Prescott has been at the hand of a couple of those. Slow starts have been a bugaboo for the Cowboys in the past. But, Isaiah, how do you avoid shooting yourself in the foot and having those early holes to try and dig yourself out of?
Run the ball.
Okay.
Run the ball. Dak Prescott, anytime he gets near 40 pass attempts, that's when he starts having a lot of issues. And I think, you know, that's been an issue between him and Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore obviously wants to throw the ball. He's done a great job this year of improving his abilities to simply run it and trust in that. But Dak Prescott, this past game and what we've seen over the past recent games, he's starting to try to force the ball a lot and depend less on his mechanics and more so on just his arm strength.
Towards the end of the game, you went in on a 98-yard drive, and I saw you dump the ball off, Dak. I saw you hit your first option. Take that into consideration when you're going in the first part of the game. Get the easy pass. Make things happen. Rely on your legs. Dak, you're a better quarterback.
And with some of how tight it was on the scoreboard, it was also tight because the Cowboys had some injury issues in this ball game as well. As very physical, Barry losing a couple guys, most notably Terrence Steele out for the season, torn ACL. Jonathan Hankins on the defensive side with a strained pec. He's not expected to return until the postseason. How big were some of these injuries moving forward?
Yeah, all these injuries suck, and hopefully those guys can come back and have a speedy recovery. But to me, it was a Terrence Steele injury. That was huge because he was having, the best start to his young career so far, and that was a huge blow. Also, it kind of forces the Cowboys offensive line to play musical chairs out there. And at one point in the season, that offensive line, they were a strength of this team.
I like Terrence Steele. Obviously, was a big injury, but I think Jonathan Hankins is maybe even bigger, simply because of the fact there's nobody else that can do what he does. He's a two-gap guy. He was pushing guys into the backfield. Now, who are you going to rely on to come fill that void?
Got to find a way to fill that void. The Cowboys filling the void at the wide receiver position by signing a veteran wide receiver, though they have some subtractions. There's an addition to the Cowboys when we come back. T.Y. Hilton has now got a star on the side of his helmet. We'll tell you what he brings to the table next.
Special Edition, presented by AT&T, is brought to you by Ford F-Series, the best-selling truck in Texas. Reliant, an NRG company. Blockchain.com, trusted by millions, trusted by America's team. And by AT&T, official sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys. This segment is brought to you by Salvation Army. Love Beyond.
My job is to help these guys, as much as I can, help them with my knowledge. And, right now I just want to, concentrate on staying in the playbook. I've been studying the past 2 days for probably 15 hours. So I'm just getting this thing down. So, however way I can help, I'm ready to help.
The Cowboys go out onto the free agent market and they bring in a veteran wide receiver that is a former Pro Bowler and used to wear the number 13. His name is not Odell Beckham Jr. Instead, it is T.Y. Hilton. He is now a Dallas Cowboy, the former Indianapolis Colt, in the building this week and joining the Cowboys offense. Back here with Isaiah Stanback, Barry Church, and Nate Newton, I'm Kyle Yeomans. Gentlemen, what does this signing do for the Cowboys offense in allowing them to have more weapons to throw the football to?
I mean, you just hit it. It gives us more weapons. I mean, and the Dallas Cowboys now have a veteran and in T.Y. Hilton that gives you experience and he gives you a bunch of speed. And also, what does he do? He adds to your depth chart. You drafted a Jalen Tolbert with the expectation that he was going to add some depth to you and make some contributions this year. That has not panned out. This is your replacement plan for that.
Yeah, I think this signing of T.Y. Hilton is solid for the Dallas Cowboys. Look, this is a veteran wide receiver. He knows how to approach the game both mentally and physically. And I think once he picks up the playbook, he can be similar to Dalton Schultz as far as that security blanket for Dak Prescott, making those huge catches across the middle. But not only that, I think he can be an extension of the coaching staff. I think he can teach this young wide receiver room how to read zones during your route, how to create more separation from the defensive backs. And he's ready to play now, unlike some people we know.
I'm with you 100%, Barry. This guy's going to give him experience in the chalk room, up on the board, watching film. But more importantly, I'm hoping he's going to give us a deep threat and can get into that middle because we're not using the middle of the field like we should. And I think he'll be able to read the different coverages to get into the middle.
Speaking of experience, both on and off the field, what about the return of Tyron Smith back into the fold this week against the Jaguars? He's expected to play. So what do you do with the rest of the offensive line? Terrence Steele out for the season. What should the shuffle look like, Nate, if you're the one that's making the decision?
Connor McGovern at left guard, Biotish at your center, the great all-pro Zach Martin at your other guard. Now that right tackle, I don't know how they're going to do that, but the owner said that Tyron Smith is your left tackle. So I guess that a battle between Peterson and the young Tyler to see who gets the right tackle.
Yeah, I'm with you, Big Nate. And, I think you got to kind of put Tyron Smith at that left tackle position. We all know what's going to happen there. Right tackle is kind of a question mark right now. Peters, do you put him back in there? Does he have the stamina to go 60 snaps out there at the right tackle spot? But to me, the big question is that left guard spot. Do you put the first rounder Tyler Smith in there, or do you put McGovern in there, who's had a great season so far?
Tyler Smith, thank you for your services. You've done an amazing job this year, but we need you to go sit down, young fella. We need you to be the young man that now is our backup plan for our veteran left tackle and right tackle. Tyron Smith goes to left tackle. You got big Jason Peters needs to go to right tackle, just like he did in the most recent game. And then you have the break glass scenario. If one of those veterans goes down, you have a tackle that you trust in and has showed you he can play to go ahead and fill that position.
A wide receiver bringing it to you straight and forward.
Hey, he played quarterback too. He knows how to maneuver around the pocket a little bit. That's the thing, though, is your scenario there. It sounds like a lot is changing, but really that's kind of the slower transition, the easier transition to move. Why is that such a big idea for this Cowboys team to push forward with?
Because the thing is, you had the Tyler Smith whole little scenario where you try to move him to the guard position in training camp. That didn't really go that well. And then if you go back and watch the first series of the second quarter against the Texans, that also did not go that well. So he's shown you that that is not his role. Can he do it? Maybe not to the capabilities that you want to, but that's a break glass scenario. Move him to the bench and let him simply sit up there and watch the veteran Hall of Famers. When you have both Peters and you have Tyron Smith and Martin on the field, those are three potential Hall of Famers.
And in the middle, keep it solid so you can run those guys right out. I'm with you, man. Wow. I am with you.
Hey, we've got an agreement there. I feel like that's not necessarily the case among people that watch this team because it is a tough decision to be made, and there is a debate on both sides of it, but this offensive line will be a topic of conversation moving forward. When we come back here on Special Edition, the Cowboys bringing some holiday cheer to those in need. They go out to the hospitals and have a quick visit from the Dallas Cowboys.
This segment was brought to you by Salvation Army. Love Beyond. This segment is brought to you by Ford F-Series, the best-selling truck in Texas.
It is the final week to sign up for one-day holiday football and dance academy camps at AT&T Stadium presented by Invisalign. The camps are available on December 20th and 21st. You can sign up right now at dallascowboys.com/academy. Again, coming up on the 20th and 21st, so you're running out of time for that one as we welcome you back in to Special Edition. And speaking of time, it's one of the best times of the year, holiday season around North Texas, and it's again an opportunity for the Dallas Cowboys to serve alongside their friends at the Salvation Army, and an opportunity to go for their hospital visits, a tradition that the Cowboys have had dating all the way back decades. However, it has now returned after the COVID pandemic and right back into the arms of waiting families and children in need. We've got Jess Navarez with more on that.
Yes, come! Merry Christmas!
From taking hits on the field Sunday to hits on the heartstrings the very next morning. Santa Claus wasn't the only person coming to town, as the Dallas Cowboys and the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders visited several children's hospitals in the DFW Metroplex.
This morning's been very eventful, very exciting. Very thankful to be here, just to see, all these just pure souls just happy and, just being out here with my teammates and just giving back.
The players handed out gifts.
So when you got a big heart, we call him Big Bear because he's gonna take care of you.
Played games, took pictures, and the day wouldn't be complete without a moment of football.
It was fun to see. There was a patient that just tossed the football back to a football player, and so I think that was pretty neat and something they can look back into years later and say, I got to throw a football with the football player.
And although fans are usually the ones to cheer on the boys come Sunday, the Dallas Cowboys players found themselves cheering on young patients across local hospitals in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
They're the epitome of resilience. Things get hard and they just continue to fight. We can take a lot. We can take a lot from them and learn a lot from them. They just don't know how strong they are and the impact that they can have on people like us.
During a challenging time of the year for kids, families, and hospital staff, something as simple as a smile goes a very long way for everyone, giving those who watch them every Sunday a glimmer of hope.
Yeah, and we walk in with the red bags full of the teddy bears. We're handing out the pictures, and yeah, when you're able to just give them that teddy bear.
You know what this is right here? If you put it on and you really believe, it give you a superpower. You gotta make a wish. Close your eyes. Make a wish. And give you a superpower. You gotta really believe, and everything's gonna work its way. Only you believe it, and you gotta make sure it's still in you no matter what. All right, that's what I like to hear.
Recalling the kids they met and using their fight as motivation, both on and off the field.
There are so many different traditions as a part of the Dallas Cowboys football club, but this one is unlike any other. And one of the best times of the year is the Cowboys staff gets a chance to go serve a little bit and bring smiles to the faces of the children in need. We'll get back to football when we come back here on Special Edition. Trevor Lawrence brings a problem to the Dallas Cowboys. How can this defense find some success and maybe slow down the second-year player out of Clemson?
This segment was brought to you by Ford F-Series, the best-selling truck in Texas.
Back here on Special Edition from the Star in Frisco. It is Week 15 of the NFL season, and the Cowboys preparing to travel to Jacksonville. It's been quite some time since the Cowboys have actually made that trip to Florida to take on the Jaguars, but they're met with a tough task. Team that has only won 5 games, however, they are much better than their record shows. Isaiah, let's start with Trevor Lawrence because that's where things start with Doug Peterson and the Jaguars. Second-year man out of Clemson at quarterback. He's starting to figure some things out.
He is starting to figure some things out, and you think about his abilities, and that's the reason why he was number 1 overall, and you pair that up with the Doug Peterson and the mindset that he has as an offensive guru, he's starting to really play some really good ball. They're utilizing the assets that he has in his arm strength, his decision-making, and now guess what? He's starting to use his legs, just like you see right there on the screen.
20 touchdowns with 6 interceptions. This guy is efficient. The last 4 or 5 games, no interceptions. He's finding his rhythm. He's doing what he's got to do, and Coach Peterson is doing a great job with him.
He's got the top passer rating in the league the last 4 weeks of the regular season when throwing the ball 10 yards or more down the field. He has been stretching things out for that Jags offense. Barry, let's take a look at some of the weapons the Cowboys defense will be faced up against. They've got multiple guys: Marvin Jones Jr., Zay Jones, Christian Kirk, who had a big contract this offseason. Oh, and by the way, Evan Ingram coming off of 150 yards receiving last week in the win over Tennessee. How tough for some of these weapons to slow down?
Look, this is going to be a big-time test for the secondary as a whole, especially those young defensive backs, Kelvin Joseph and Deron Bland. Like you said, this wide receiver unit, they are extremely experienced, and they bring all different types of styles to the football field. You got Christian Kirk, who's your speed demon, kind of take the top off the defense. Zay Jones is your big physical possession receiver out there. And Mr. Do Everything, Marvin Jones Jr., he's a guy as well. So they will be tested. And Kyle, you're right. They better not sleep on that receiving tight end, Evan Ingram, especially after the game he had last week.
Well, Dallas should know a lot about Evan Ingram and his abilities, him coming from New York. But I think this is going to be the biggest test that this secondary has faced all year long, based upon the availability of our defensive backs with those 2 injuries to Lewis and Brown. These guys are going to be tested. These receivers, you have to respect every single one of them. Not only do you have to worry about the tight end Ingram as well, but you have to worry about the guy Etienne Jr. out the backfield. He's a problem.
What a transition that is, because that's exactly where we're going next. Into the backfield, Travis Etienne Jr., also a Clemson product, played with Trevor Lawrence with the Tigers during their collegiate days, but he is back and healthy, and he's been putting together a solid season, 815 yards nearly on the ground. Nate, why is he different than some of the guys that the Cowboys have faced so far?
He can get downhill real quick. He's averaging 5 yards a carry, man. He can catch the ball coming out of the backfield. I think he has like 30-some receptions for 200 yards. So he's a do-all running back that don't have to leave the field.
He's shifty, and he is a guy that forces you out of man coverage. If you do want to play man coverage like Dan Quinn does in his defense, then guess what? Who are you going to put on this young man? Because he is shifty out the backfield. He'll get out to the flats relatively quickly. They like to get the ball in his hands, and he'll go right up the sideline on you in a heartbeat.
And if there was an area where the Cowboys could have some success, it may be the Cowboys offense going up against a very young Jacksonville defense. This defense is 28th in the NFL in terms of sacks allowed, Barry, but what do they do well?
Look, this defense may not be as good as the Jacksonville defense back in the day, but they're starting to turn themselves into a pretty solid defense overall. They have great speed on all 3 levels of this defense, and they're extremely physical. Just ask the Tennessee Titans, who they forced 4 turnovers on last week. So the Cowboys do not sleep on this team because they got some dogs on that side of the field.
They run a 3-4 variation defense, so their linebackers, keep your eyes on them. They run real well. We don't know if Trayvon Walker will be playing this week, but this guy's a beast.
Hey, he's the #1 overall draft pick in the most recent NFL draft. He is questionable, may be available, and if he is, that's a huge key for that Jacksonville defense to have some success. Speaking of keys, could Tony Pollard be the key to win number 11 for the Cowboys and setting up a matchup with Philadelphia on Christmas Eve, possibly to decide the division? We'll tell you keys to the game when we come back.
Special edition presented by AT&T was brought to you by Ford F-Series, the best-selling truck in Texas. Miller Lite, the only beer of the Dallas Cowboys. And by AT&T, official sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys.
Ferguson again at the 40, at the 35. Hurdles a man, 30, head down. Gonna hand the ball to Elliott, up the middle, smashing and dashing and walking the dog. Over the middle, it's caught by Lamb. 10, 5, searching.
Cowboys looking to bring the Lightning and the Thunder to Jacksonville this week. In the final month of the regular season, they'll take on the Jaguars at noon on CBS coming up this Sunday. Back here with Isaiah Stanback, Barry Church, and Nate Newton. I'm Kyle Yeomans wrapping up special edition, and we've got some keys to the game to hand out. How do the Cowboys get their 5th straight win and get win number 11 on the year?
Well, Dallas Cowboys, I need you to go out there and get 5 sacks and 2 turnovers against Trevor Lawrence, because if you do not get back there to him, these receivers will have an opportunity to get around.
What about you, Nate? What's your key to the game?
Just play clean. You know, you calm the penalties. Now stop with the turnovers. Play a clean game and run the rock.
Barry?
To me, get back defensively, get back to being dominating on third down. Last week, the Houston Texans were 8 of 15, a little bit over 50%. That's what made that game such a close one. Get back to dominating, kill this game by halftime.
Yeah, you got to get up and get out of the gate early, because against Houston, you could get away with it. Jacksonville, not necessarily. That's a good team that is starting to find a rhythm underneath a new head coach and, of course, a young quarterback, young defense. They have the pieces. You don't want that puzzle to come together against you here in Week 15. But that does it for us here on Special Edition from the Star in Frisco. We'll see you next week with more. Isaiah, Barry, Nate, I'm Kyle. We'll see you later.